Okay, everyone, I think we are live. Hello, everyone, Trailblazing families. How is everyone doing today? I have a wonderful Worldschooling mom today with us who I have met in Spain. We have a lot of mutual friends. So I think before we met in real life, we kind of knew each other on Facebook. So Keri Shin, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
And where are you right now?
I'm in Florida, and this is our home base, and I'm in my front yard.
Wonderful. Now you guys are part-time world schoolers, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we've always been part-time since we started world schooling. There's like always the creative tension in my family of people that want to stay home and people that want to travel, and we're always kind of navigating that. And the way that's always gone up until now is that we're traveling for some months every year. We're home for some months every year, and it varies. I think the longest we've ever traveled is 4 or 5 months out of the year, and we've had times when we just do 3 or 2.5. No, I think since the beginning it's always been at least 3.
Okay, cool. What do you do with your house when you're gone? Just leave it, or you have a house sitter, or?
We've done all kinds of different things. When we kind of how we initially got started was my husband got fired, and we left like so short after that, a couple of weeks after that, for our first big trip in Europe, and we managed to find somebody to rent the house at that time. We had a much bigger house at that time. We went and left and rented the house and went to Europe and traveled around and lived out of backpacks and in really small little places the whole time. And we got back to the big house and we're like, what are we doing? We don't need this big house. And we sold the big house and we moved into an RV. And since then we've really focused on creating a place that doesn't feel enslaving or limiting to us. So our home base, we don't want to have a mortgage. We want to keep a small space where we can live, but it's not expensive for us to keep when we're traveling, if we don't have anybody in it. And then since then we've had house sitters that come. We've shared it with friends when we were gone. We've left it empty. We do all kinds of things. It just kind of is an evolution. We don't have a set rhythm that way.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's really good that you tried all those different ways, because some people don't know whether to just sell the whole hog, and just go, or rent it out, Airbnb it out, or whatnot. So it's good that you've tried all different ways. Tell me about your family. How many kids do you have, and what are their ages?
We have 4 kids, and they are 16, 12, 9, and just turned 5.
Okay, great. And I met a few of them when we were together at Latin Spain. So we were together at a Worldschool hub there, which is kind of a wonderful little casual hub, nothing super organized. So that was fun to meet and hang out. So what motivated you guys? I mean, your husband lost his job, which sometimes can be a blessing in disguise, and you decided, let's go on this adventure.
Yeah, totally. We initially were, we have always been homeschooling. And we've really always practiced self-directed learning, which is kind of like unschooling is another word for that. And so we had so much flexibility in our lives and I was really enjoying that lifestyle. But my husband had worked for a long time at a software company and was a partner in that, and was just deeply committed and invested to the people there and the lifestyle there and the work there. And he got a lot of meaning and purpose out of that. And so we were really limited in where we could go and how much flexibility we had to travel. But I always kind of longed for that. And so when he came home and said that he'd gotten fired, for me, I was like, that's amazing. Let's go. He also was such a blessing because of his time there and his relationships there. He had a year's severance. So for the first year that when we left, it was we felt like this was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and we were going to just go for it. And we left a couple weeks later, and we did I think 3.5 months traveling around Europe and North Africa and Morocco at that time. And it was, for us, we thought just a one-time thing, but it really shifted the course of our lives, that experience together.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, so you took a trial run and decided to make it kind of a lifestyle part-time. And I think your husband's consulting now, so he's got things going online. Yeah. Yes, you can do it remotely.
Yeah, he works remotely and does consulting in the software industry and creates dashboards, so he can do it from anywhere now.
Awesome. Awesome. Good old digital nomad now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how your kids learn, because you just created an Agile Learning Center. Is it in your home or someplace else? Tell us a little bit about it.
Earlier this year, well, we've done several. We've helped create many little iterations of an Agile Learning Center, which is a structure that supports self-directed learning in community. And so we started maybe 7 years ago with the first iteration of that Agile Learning Center here, and it was just like a co-op with families, and that was in our house. And then we did another one where we paid a facilitator and it was at somebody else's house. And then we helped start one actually when we were visiting Anahata, which is one of the world schooling hubs in Mexico. We helped start a little Agile Learning Center there, which continued on for quite a while after we left, but I think it's not functioning anymore. And then just earlier this year, we actually had the opportunity to buy. We always felt a little limited in all the earlier iterations by not having a space. And so we just this year were able to purchase the property right next door to us, which has a little like dwelling, but a very strange dwelling. It's not a very good dwelling for living in, but it's a perfect dwelling for a self-directed learning space. So we kind of cleaned that up and we started a self-directed learning center, an Agile Learning Center here called Thrive Hive. And we run in 2-month sessions. We meet 3 days a week, 12 to 5. We do 3 weeks on and take a week off. And then we do 3 weeks on again and take a week off. And that's one session. So we do like 2-month sessions, but they're very agile and we're shifting and creating like a sustainable and regenerative experience for everyone as we go. So we're finding our rhythm with schedules and finding our rhythm with all that. But yeah, we started with 21 kids this time and it feels like,
wow,
we made a lot of changes. I feel like we've learned a ton in that process, and this particular iteration feels really enlivening in a lot of ways.
Now, do you accept world schoolers passing through, or do they need to?
Yes, we would love to receive world schoolers for a session or even a partial session. And we do have some space on our land for RVs if there are people traveling in RVs, but also Airbnbs are pretty cheap here in Gainesville. So if we would welcome world schoolers, and it's definitely part of our vision. And I'll just share real quickly that we also travel together, as some of our families in our community also like to travel. And so we are creating a Worldschooling Pop-up in Xalapa, Mexico. There's a Pan-American Agile Learning Center Summit happening there in August. And so that is just a week long, and it'll be co-creating a beautiful space together for self-directed learning with a bunch of other families that are involved from across North America, Central America, and South America. And then after that, we'll have a week of traveling around Xalapa, near like just visiting the beautiful areas around Xalapa. And then the last week, we'll be able to attend Educambiando, which is an incredible self-directed learning center, ALC, that was started about 12 years ago. It's a very beautiful expression of an Agile Learning Center, and mature, and has a very beautiful culture. And so they've invited us, our world schooling families, to join their community there for at least a week. And if you want to stay longer, you can stay longer. So
amazing.
Yeah,
Keri, hopefully you're in my group. So later, can you put your, if you have a website or a Facebook group for your Agile Learning Center and the ones in Mexico that you mentioned, who knows, maybe some of our members of our group might want to join you guys. That would be awesome.
Totally. Yeah, I can put those in there. And I don't yet have all the details in any readable format for the August pop-up, but it should be very soon. I can put those up.
Okay, cool. I know that finding community and being with community is really important for you. So why don't you, you went to Europe initially. I don't know if you were part of any community at the beginning. So how did you find community, and tell us a little bit about the communities or hubs or summits or whatever you went to?
Yeah, well, I think what happened for us is we did that trip to Europe, and it was really like an amazing experience for our family. And I think we were in a really unique situation also because we had none of the normal constraints, right? My husband wasn't working. Neither of us was working. We were still getting paid. We still had a salary. We didn't have any agenda. We had no timeline that we were on. We didn't like, there was nothing. It was like a big blank slate. And one of the things that happened was we noticed that all the things that we'd ever blamed our like troubles, our interpersonal dynamics on, we didn't have those anymore, but we were still having the same interpersonal dynamics. And so it was so interesting, like, to realize that it was never those things, right? And it was very hard to acknowledge and take, but it was also liberating in a lot of ways, because it felt like, oh, if it was never those things, then we don't have to be like, we can change those patterns and those relationships. And we started really being much more conscious about what we were creating in our lives and in our relationships. And that led us to, so we went, the first time we moved fast and we were traveling fast, and it felt a little, a lot of people do. And it felt like a little depleting, even though it was also very exhilarating, right? And we loved it. And we came back and kind of integrated what we learned from that trip and said, like, if we do it again, we'd like to go a little slower. And we miss the like depth of connection, not just with people, but with a culture, or with like, to really immerse in that. And so we started trying to think about like, how could we do it with friends? How could we do it with other people, like that our kids really thrive in that environment when there's other children around. And we missed that. And so we started figuring out different ways to try to do that with friends from home. First, we started trying to like navigate, do you want to go on a trip with us or try, but it was like complex and hard to navigate. And then I came across in one of the Worldschooling Facebook groups, I came across the Worldschooling Pop-up in Stone Soup in Bali. And it was like my whole self lit up when I saw that. I was like,
I went to the one in San Miguel de Allende the year before. We missed the Bali one. So
right. Yeah. And so we went there, and it was like such a great experience for us in so many ways. We met so many neat people. I felt so connected to, and I loved the Balinese culture also. And it felt like we had been able there to, and it was so co-creative, that Stone Soup format, where it wasn't like you were paying in and receiving something. It really was like, everybody bring what you love, and let's make a community and offer what we have to offer and see what happens. And it felt like so open and so alive, and just like so much vitality. And my kids loved it, and I loved it, and my partner loved it. And so that was like enough for us to be like, that's what we want more of. Like, and over the years, that's the place that we've kind of guided our life from, is like, what's working well and that we want more of, rather than trying to like focus on the things that we feel like we're lacking or something. So what do we want? That worked really well. We like that. Let's look for more of that and try to find different expressions of that, and try to understand more and more about about what's possible and what's out there. And so we did.
I was planning to go to the Stone Soup in Guatemala in 2020. Were you were there too?
Yeah, we actually, I was going to say that we actually met before La Herradura, because I had organized a bunch of calls for people prior to the Guatemala Stone Soup. Right. And I remember you were on some of those calls. Yeah.
Well, we stopped because we were already in Mexico. We were stopped at the border. Belize, because of COVID, shut everything down. So unfortunately, that Stone Soup pop-up didn't happen. And unfortunately, I don't think they've done any since.
Nope.
And I don't know, I want to reach out to Azizi and see if we can get it started again, because I really love the concept of everyone just adding to the Stone Soup. I think we did, the one in Mexico, we did chip in $150 per family to pay for the co-working
right.
that we had.
And it was the same, it was similar in Bali, maybe even a little bit more to cover like administrative costs, but the amount that you paid in order to for the amount that I received felt like, totally. It was amazing.
Exactly. So one of our we have a comment about, talking about Stone Soup if it's a conference. No, it was a Worldschool pop-up, and it's no longer happening. But hopefully others like it.
The one that we're offering in Xalapa is very much like this format. It's and actually our Agile Learning Center here is also very much this format. It's based on petitions and offerings. So people can petition for things that they'd really love to do or learn or experience or try. And somebody that might have that skill can create an offering around it, or you can create offerings just from your own heart and gifts, what you'd like to offer to the community. And we have a rich like learning environment where there's often multiple offerings happening at a time. Everything is invitational and consent based, so you just go where you want to go and do the things that you want to do, and children offer things and adults offer things, and it's a very beautiful learning model, I think. And we will be practicing that. Lots of people who have a lot of experience in that learning model, so I think it's going to be an experience in August.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk. So you did this Stone Soup in Bali, and then which hubs or pop-ups did you go to? Because that's your thing.
After that. So we went to Bali. We did in 2020 when we didn't go to we were signed up to go to the Stone Soup in Guatemala. And we actually were at the airport. We moved our ticket up because we were like, oh, they're going to shut everything down. So we moved our ticket up and went down to the airport. And that night, Sabrina and Doug, the people that were organizing the Guatemala pop-up, said they were going to leave. They weren't going to stick it out there for the thing. And then we're like, okay, we're not going to go. So we came back to Gainsville and planted a bunch of fruit trees. And then we co-organized a group of RVers that traveled around the US in RVs out in the West. And we had a beautiful summer at different national parks, boondocking with awesome people, many of whom we met at the Bali Stone Soup, who were back doing RVing in the US at that time, and then their friends that they had met. So we spent some months doing that, and it was an incredible experience. And then we went to the Anahata Stone Soup. Sorry, not Stone Soup, tomorrow. Oh, cool. Yeah.
On a panel discussion, even though she's on hiatus, she's going to join us.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And she's such a neat human being, and just like so expressive in the things that she loves. Also, I love to see what she creates. And we met her also in Bali. And so that drew us to the Anahata Worldschooling Community. And we spent some time in Anahata with them. And we actually, I think 2 months. I think we were there for 2 months. And we helped create a little Agile Learning Center there also, which was really fun for us. And we met, again, many beautiful families, some of whom we'd known from Bali, some of whom we'd known from other travels. And that was just a wonderful experience. And I think like we learned a lot about what we needed in a community, or what we wanted in a community in terms of the rhythm and the structure and the depth and the authentic sharing and relating and creating spaces for that. That was really like a turning point for me there. I felt like, oh, this is like another level of depth and connection that's available because of the spaces that are created for sharing, and for connection. And so we've brought that forward into lots of our other projects and looked for that in other places. And then after Anahata, we did the most recent one we went to was in Peru with the traveling circus, and I saw that you guys did an interview with Abigail and Jeremiah, which is so cool too. And we loved that experience. It was very different than we expected, and I think all of these experiences have been different than what we expected. And part of this process for us is like learning in relation, and the essence of world schooling to me, what I get out of it now is that like real learning happens in relationship to real life, right? That like whatever is happening and unfolding in life is what my deepest like path in learning is. And so I can have my intentions, and I can work to create what I desire in the world, but what's actually happening and how I relate to that is really my path, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of these experiences have had different, very high highs and very low lows than I expected. And I think like a big piece of understanding travel is that it's not an escape from anything. It's never an escape from anything. Like the the work that we all have to do individually in our own paths show up with us wherever we are.
Yep.
And that this human experience is like, we're all going to experience the full range of the human experience. And it's going to happen whether you're in Florida or in Bali or in Mexico or anywhere else. And so being able to like understand that you're not gonna escape from it. It is going to stretch your range and your capacity to be with life as it is, and to be at ease and at peace with the differing emotional experiences and challenges that life presents. I do think that's true, that it stretches us and increases our range and our capacity, but it doesn't make those things go away at all.
Yeah. And I want to say that I think that's a big difference between world schooling versus being on vacation or on holiday. I think people, when they travel for a vacation or holiday, it's like an escape from work or whatever their life is back in their home area, or a reward, right? And they have these high expectations. They want it to be perfect. They want it to be wonderful. They deserve this break, this relaxing break, whatever. World schooling is life, it's just, we're moving around the world. And we definitely have to change our expectations, and especially at these World School hubs, because so many of them are created from other parents, other World School parents who are doing this mostly as a labor of love. I mean, most of them are not making, much profit from it. And I think we, participants need to be aware of that. They're doing a ton of work organizing a million details to gather many families together. And you can't come with these expectations like you're at a resort, you're at a Four Seasons, or ask for a million exceptions, because it's overwhelming for them as it is. And I think some people, one of the things that I really tried to learn over the years with my travel experience is to be more patient. And because, when you're working in the States with a career or whatever, you can be kind of impatient. But that's one thing, I want everyone to adjust their expectations and be more patient when visiting these hubs. They're wonderful, but you can't expect them to be like the Shangri-La.
Yeah, I think there is none. And I think like for us too, I totally agree and hear you on patience. And I like the way I relate to that in myself is like the exchange mentality like permeates Western culture a lot. Now I'm going to give you some small amount, and now you owe me this thing. Yeah. And it's like there's like it robs us of the beautiful relational quality of happens when we give gifts from our heart and we receive them from our heart. And I think so many of the world schooling communities and the Agile Learning Center that we started here, our Agile Learning Center is actually offered in the gift economy to kind of try to disrupt that system. And so we're gifting the space, and then we're seeing what we can create sustainably as a community, not in a fee for service model. And it's been super challenging for all of us, of course, but it's like in a way that we want to stretch and grow our capacity. And it's been beyond rewarding in the sense of like when we really create a space for people to bring their gifts, like what really brings you alive, that's what we want you to bring here. And people do it, and that's sustainable, right? It's generative. It does not depleting. And if we're not having expectations of what somebody else should bring or is going to provide for us, and we just receive what we're getting as a gift, as a real gift, always. Like this person is offering this to me, and I'm receiving it, and that's a gift, and it inspires like an appreciation and a gratitude and a generosity of my own heart, where I want to gift to other people and to this person also. And then there's this like really beautiful generative reciprocal cycle. But when you have expectations and when you have like ideas about what somebody should be doing or what somebody should be offering, it kind of pulls the whole rug out from under that, which I think this gift and offering is like the more like natural, actual human state, right? Like that we always exist in like all the basic elements of life are gifted to us. The sunshine that grows, the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the land that supports us, those things are all gifted, and there's not enough money in the world to provide them. So to buy them. So it does feel like that like coming into that space in ourselves and in our communities, and like what we want to cultivate in this community, and what I hear you kind of pointing to about wanting to invite that consciousness into world travel, because it's hard coming out of an exchange economy and making that shift and transition, but it's just so much more generative and sustainable, and a lovely way to live, really.
Yeah, it's a better way to be a better human. So
Yeah.
so Keri, you guys travel part-time. Can you talk about why? I mean, you have this wonderful project now in your home base, but you still like to travel. And you mentioned that some of your family members don't want to travel as much. So is this because my family, we're dealing with the same thing. We've got, you know, I have twins, and one wants something and the other wants something different. So how are you managing all of that?
Yeah, totally. We do work in partnership with our kids. We really value partnership parenting styles. And so when there's something that they're needing, we try to help them create a space for that in their life. And our oldest especially was really clear from the time they were about 12 years old, like, I don't really want to go, like, the airports, I don't like the travel, I miss my friends here, we have a lot of family and homeschool networks and support and beautiful community here also. And it was disruptive for them. Like, they didn't want to come. They feel like they like missed out on so much when they came back and had to find their way back in again. And so we started trying to, we have grandparents, and she stayed with her grandparents for some time, and cousins and aunts and uncles. And so we've just kind of navigated that in longer and longer stretches. And now they're dual enrolled at the college here in town. And so there's more like educational structure, but by choice, right? Like that's where they were, and that's what they wanted. And so that's where we stand now. And it is my experience that as my kids get older and older, they want less and less travel, right? Like they're less. The two little ones, the 9-year-old and the 5-year-old, are still very eager to go. The 12-year-old is now in the range of, like, actually the last trip we just went to Costa Rica 2 weeks ago just for a short visit, and the 12-year-old stayed home also with the 16-year-old. So that is my experience.
Interesting, because I have twins. They just turned 14. One of them wants to become a digital nomad. She loves traveling. She wants to keep going, and
That's cool.
she has no interest in settling down, going to school, joining any homeschool co-op. She just wants to keep going and visit Worldschool hubs once in a while. Not all the time. She's an introvert, but once in a while. Okay, so what other, you take the kids that want to travel with you part-time. And because we're kind of becoming part-time world schoolers too, because my one daughter is taking a break, so we're going back for a few months. So that works for you guys. And then what do you do with your Agile Learning Center when you're traveling?
Right. So this time around, we've been really careful to structure it so that it's not dependent on us. Like we really wanted to co-create a collaborative community, deep community experience. And so we haven't actually, we left last week, but it was during the off week of our schedule. So, and we will leave in the summertime, maybe over the summertime, maybe it won't. Like I don't know what's going to happen with it yet, but I also don't have like a lot of attachment to whether this is just the end of the cycle and another iteration will arise at some point in the future, or whether it will be able to continue on for the people if it's bringing a lot of value to the people here. And so far I believe that it is. It feels like it can be sustainable without us here. And I've been really conscious of not like taking more responsibility than feels sustainable over the long run in this project, and just letting it build to whatever it can sustain without me, and just like adding the gifts that I have when I can, but not feeling like a responsibility for making it happen. And what's happened out of that is that so many other people have stepped in and taken responsibility, and like even in ways that I couldn't have possibly imagined or predicted, that they're kind of taking ownership of this thing, and it's providing so much value for everybody. And so that feels like really great. And I feel really curious to see what will what will emerge out of that as we start to travel again.
And do you know when and where you're going next?
That's a really good question. Our last Costa Rica trip was actually to visit eco community in Costa Rica, and we decided to purchase a lot there. And so in La Ecovia in Costa Rica, they have a new project. They have a long-standing 12-year-old eco community there that was always a little appealing to me, but more recently became appealing to the rest of my family, and particularly my partner, because of the involvement of an author that really impacted us both with his work around the gift economy, actually, Charles Eisenstein. And so we went there, we decided to buy a lot. And so we're planning to be here for a few months and there for a few months and traveling for a few months as a long-term kind of goal, plan, rhythm. So I'm sure we will be going back to Costa Rica, and then August is our pop-up in Mexico. So we'll definitely be in Mexico in August. Oh, and we have a short community kind of road trip here coming in June with some families from our Agile Learning Center and some friends and mentors from South America who are coming to visit, and another friend from Uganda who I met through a really interesting way, who's coming, and been working with him. He wants to offer self-directed learning opportunities in Uganda. He's actually from South Sudan, but living in a refugee settlement in Uganda. And so he's going to come back. We applied for a grant and got a $5,000 grant to seed that project in the refugee settlements in Uganda. And so he's going to fly back, and we're going to take a little road trip up the East Coast with some families to explore other self-directed learning centers in the US, and just spend a little time in Agile Learning Centers in Charlotte and in North Carolina. And so that's in June, so that we can all kind of learn and feel from different expressions of Agile Learning Centers, and particularly so that Mensah, my friend from Uganda, can really feel those what it feels like to be in an Agile Learning Center. He's going to be here with us in our community for a little while, and then we're going to take him to a couple other communities, and then he'll go back. And in September, I'm going there to help do a facilitator training with a handful of my mentors in self-directed learning, which I'm really excited about also.
That's cool.
So there.
Yeah, lots going on. I think we should, since we're talking so much about Agile Learning Centers, we should, I'll list the website. And anyone can learn, because they have a handbook. You can learn and train to become an Agile Learning Center facilitator and create your own. So it's kind of this wonderful structured self-directed learning program that anyone can learn to do. We have a few people watching, so please let us know if you have any questions for Keri. But the next question I want to ask you is, what do you think the main benefits have been for your family to be living this lifestyle? Worldschooling part-time, visiting Worldschooling hubs, and obviously you're running your own, Agile Learning Center, which is kind of like a hub. But I mean, if looking back at before you started traveling and now, what has changed for the better for your family?
Yeah, I mean, so many things, but I think the thing that really stands out to me is that traveling with my family to different cultures and having some time to really immerse in the cultures, it gives me an embodied experience, and my family an embodied experience of the differences in culture, and that culture really is a choice. That it's not when you're living all the time in the same culture, it feels like this is the only way to do it, right? And it can feel oppressive, and it can feel like nothing can ever change. And I feel like having the experience of oh, people do it really differently here, and there's things here that they have figured out that feel so much more like home to me than my home culture. And I see these shadow sides, or the parts that don't fit for me also. And the more cultures that I've experienced that with, the more I can see my own conditioning. I think I can be aware of my own conditioning, and I can choose which pieces of culture I want to create for my own family, in my own life, in my own that it feels just much more flexible and possible and agile. Like that I don't have to do it the way that I learned how to do it. I see that like it's not the best way, it's not the only way, it's just a way. And that like these cultural ways that we embody as a culture have positives and negatives, and just like any family, the way that you choose to have your own family culture is going to have its drawbacks and its positive sides, and that we can evolve those. We can choose when there's something that's really not serving us anymore to release that piece in service of something that does serve, right? That's something that feels more true or more beautiful or more alive for us. And I think like that gift of travel to me feels like I don't know how else you receive that. I don't know how you do that without moving like really far outside your comfort zone. I guess like as I'm just saying it, I think like if some really cataclysmic event happens, right, and everything's taken from you or your child dies or something like that, where it's like everything that you thought you knew gets really shaken, I guess it can happen that way too. But this feels like a much more pleasant way to approach it. And we're not in control of those things, right? But I think that it has that effect on us of like shaking the worldview and helping us to see that like our worldview is just one, and that we don't have to look through the same glasses that we've always looked through. We can change the lenses. And that just feels really enlivening to me, because once you have awareness and connection of that, it feels like the conditioning drops away. It's not easy. It's like always an ongoing process and it's never over. But it like the more I've gone through that process, the easier it is, right? Each time I'm like, oh, this is that thing again. This is that thing that's so hard. That's like something that I feel attached to or identified with, but that I know isn't serving anymore. And so we're going to change it. And when we change it, something more beautiful is on the other side. And I love that we've been able to do that as a family. And I love that we've been able to share those experiences. And I love that that's impacted our family culture, and also all of the things that we're kind of creating now in life feel like they've come from like really recognizing our potency, right, and our capacity for choosing a life that's really meaningful to our own definition, not by society's definition. So
such a beautiful answer. And Julie in the comments says a culture cocktail. Sorry. So what have been on the other side, what have been the most challenging parts of living this lifestyle? I mean, we did mention that one of your kids wants to stay behind and have a more stationary life. That's one of them, but any other challenges?
Yeah, that's been a super like challenging and painful one for me, and really, but also liberating in lots of ways of like evaluating my conditioning around parenting and what does it mean to give my kid like a sovereign experience in life, like to honor their sovereignty and also to honor our interdependence, because I feel like those are the two poles and they're both true, right? Like we do live in a way, in a world, in a system that we impact each other. And so we are interdependent in healthy ways, and also we are sovereign in ourselves. And so it's been really like a beautiful lesson for me, and liberating in a lot of ways, like to remove the expectations that I have of my kid. But other challenges in world schooling, I mean, I think like just travel in general it's stressful, right? Like it disrupts any rhythm, any like routine, any ways that you may have arranged your life to avoid your triggers. Like when you go and you're traveling and you're in a new culture and you're living in a new space and you're eating new foods and you're like doing all these things differently, you don't get to do that anymore. Like those triggers are going to come up, and I feel like that's a beautiful part of travel, but it's also a really hard part of travel. Like that we have to learn to feel the things that are hard to feel and do it and without harming our relationships with each other. And again, it's like, that is to me the process of stretching and growing capacity, like for living the full range of human experience and for creating like depth and intimacy in relationship. But it's hard because when you got 5-6 people all living in a small space and everybody's triggered, it's painful and it doesn't feel easy. Oh, I think maybe
I'm
lost you.
offline.
Yeah. Oh, you just came back. I see you now. You were frozen, but
Sorry, my internet is not great, so I might be coming back.
okay.
But Keri, you just keep talking because you're a co-host and
Okay.
hopefully this will keep streaming without me.
Great. Yeah, so I think that's been one of the things, is that it just disrupts the rhythm and routine. And for me, I feel like that's really healthy. Like it's healthy to disrupt that and then be able to learn and integrate and say, okay, now what do we want to bring back into our rhythm and routine now that it's been completely disruptive? It kind of gives that opportunity, but the disruption part is hard. It doesn't feel good. It feels challenging. People have big feelings about it. People feel sad, people feel angry, all of those things come up. And so being able to hold the space for those experiences without letting them control our lives, right, feels like a really important emotional skill.
Yeah, that's a great
but
answer.
Not easy. It's hard.
Somebody is asking, who do you use for medical and travel insurance? Do you have any recommendations?
We have used I can't remember what the name of it is right now. It's something Nomads. What is it?
World Nomads.
World Nomad. That's the one that we've used. And we
That's okay. I was just reading, we've had a couple of questions. Julie is explaining her background with her family. She's saying Mexico is amazing, but also challenging at times, especially raising a daughter. The communication style is very different and it can be very machista here, but we take that what works and leave the rest, the culture cocktail. Yeah, I think, yeah, we've been in countries where it's very machista or whatever. India, I mean, I've been, treated not very well because I'm a woman. Certain places, how do you handle like cultural differences when you're in countries? And, like, do you just put up with it? Do you say, hey, pay attention to me? It's difficult, honest, right?
I haven't really experienced much. Like I haven't experienced that much in other countries. And I think I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know if I just I'm not like, I don't notice it as much, or if I know many people do have that. And I can only think of one time that I felt like really uncomfortable. And that was when I had a sick older baby in Greece. And it was like our first trip and I was walking around nursing. And I felt a little uncomfortable with my like 4-year-old nursing in just walking around. And a lot of people were looking at me in a way that made me feel like, oh, I'm really drawing a lot of attention with this, but I didn't really know what else to do at that time. And as it turned out, it was a La Leche League conference that was happening there while we were walking around the Acropolis. And so all the people that were looking at me, eventually somebody came up and was like, I just think it's amazing to see you nursing your older child out in public like this. We're here with this La Leche League conference. And I was like, oh, that's why everybody's looking at me, because they appreciate it, not because they're offended by it. So
that's wonderful.
Anyway, I think I haven't had a lot of experiences like that. And I don't say that to dishonor other people's experiences, because I know that it's a real thing and that it happens, but it just really hasn't been my experience.
Yeah. Good. I don't know. I mean, once I was in India, I was checking out of a hotel and they were helping me. And then a man came up and the clerk went directly to help this man. And I realized, because I was a woman, like, excuse me, I was here first. I did speak up and they were kind of shocked. They were like, oh, she's a foreigner.
Yeah, I think I do have that experience of like a couple times I can say when I go into another culture, I do enter the culture as a guest. I do try to understand like what are the cultural norms here, and out of respect for the culture that I'm visiting, I like to observe them. Like I like to do that and try it on, right? Like it doesn't feel like a violation of who I am. Just like when I go into somebody else's house that doesn't wear shoes in their house, I'm happy to take my shoes off. It doesn't, not what I would choose to do personally, but it doesn't feel like a violation to me. And I think it doesn't feel oppressive to me because it's not my culture. Like I don't feel the same level of attachment. Like here in the US, I feel a lot of attachment to like creating the culture that I feel like I really want to live in here and challenging the status quo. But in other cultures, I don't really have the same experience that way because it doesn't feel like my culture. Like I feel like I'm here as a guest. I'm here to witness and observe and be part of and try on this culture, and they're receiving me. And I want to honor their traditions and their customs and see what's in it, because a lot of the time, like the things that on surface glance feel like oppressive actually work okay in practice, right? Like that when it doesn't feel it's just different. I don't know how to exactly explain that, but like if it's like I want to have my own worldview challenged and stretched, and in order to do that, I have to look for like, what does this create that works, right? Like rather than just noticing again the thing that I don't like about it or that doesn't work, like what other things does it bring alive that do work, that are neat, and that maybe our culture misses? Because I think there are a lot of things like that.
I agree and disagree. I mean, I'm happy to put on a veil and cover my hair and cover my body when I'm going into a religious mosque or whatever it is. But I would really like to revisit India with my girls, but the way women are poorly treated there is one of the reasons why it's holding me back, especially as a solo mom. So I may go there. Unfortunately, I'm going to try to go with other families with some big, strong men, because I just don't think that will be respected without the male figure with us. It's just the culture. And, I don't agree with the way it is. I don't agree with certain things. There's certain countries I don't want to visit. But again, I want to learn. I want to stretch myself. I want to understand, but I have some limits.
Oh, totally. And I totally respect that. And for, in all fairness, I've never been to India, and I haven't visited many countries that, we were in Morocco. That's the and Bali is such an easy culture to be part of. But but there are a lot of those kinds of traditional roles, gender roles, and I think, I don't know India, I haven't never been there, but it strikes me as a place that has a very stratified society and culture. And so I have all my like judgments and experiences about what that means from my perspective and my worldview, and I would love to someday like actually try it on and see what does work and what doesn't there for me.
I definitely want to go back, but I need to set it up in a way where we feel safe and not disrespected. Anyway, we've been talking for a while. It's been such an amazing conversation, Keri. My last question to you is, what advice would you have for people new to the world schooling lifestyle, and some newbies, like maybe some advice that you might have wanted to hear when you were first starting out?
It's a really good question.
What do you wish you knew then?
I can't say that there are things that I wish I knew, but the way that I would like to relate to it, maybe if I could go back and relate to it differently, would be less about like meeting my expectations or something, less about be open to what's actually arising and look for what's going well. Like if you can like let yourself open to what's going well and what you see and what's amazing and what's awe-inspiring and what's beautiful, because they're all going to be everywhere, and our minds are so focused on looking at what's going wrong that it can distract us from the whole picture. So training yourself to look for what's going well, and holding that alongside the things that you are definitely going to notice that are hard or challenging or wrong, I think just a much richer experience of life, and especially in other cultures where where you're really out of your comfort zone. And it can be really easy then to look for what's wrong, or what the problem is, or how to fix it, or how to get away from it. And it can cut us off from the real possibilities and potential.
That's great advice. Wonderful. Are you on Instagram or anywhere? Can we list any, I mean, other than your Agile Learning Center information?
Yeah. No, I don't have any I don't have any public faces that way, really. This is an unusual thing for me to jump on here even, but I'm excited to do it.
Appreciate you sharing your story with us, Keri. It was great to meet you in Spain and almost meet you in Guatemala.
I know.
Chat with you online once in a while. So
yeah,
thank you so much.
I always love watching what you're doing and creating, and I've been really inspired by a lot of the things you've put forward, and I always see you as kind of a trailblazer, which is a great name for your organization. I see that happening and embodied in you, and it's great to connect with you.
I just want to encourage more people to start traveling like we are in World Schooling and being trailblazing families. So thank you for helping me in that endeavor.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other world schooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this world schooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to world school, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.